Hello, welcome to Furious Driving, and today you join me at the wheel of a 2021 Toyota RAV4 Dynamic Premium. The RAV4 has evolved enormously from its roots as a tiny, comfortable sort of on-road off-roader to this full-on, full-size SUV. Let's take a look around and see what we think of it. And don't forget, if you like car reviews of new and old and interesting vehicles, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below. Hello, welcome to Furious Driving, and today we're looking at the current 2021 5th generation Toyota RAV4, which is now a plug-in hybrid. Now, would you believe the Toyota RAV4 has been around since 1994? You may remember we actually reviewed one of those early cars about a year, 2 years ago on this very channel, and that car actually came from exactly the same garage as this one does, Toyota's very own press fleet, so we knew it was a good one. The RAV4 is now in its 5th generation, and boy has it grown up. It's got to be 2, maybe 3 times the size of the original little tiny 3-door we drove all that time ago. In fact, that original 3-door looks like it would fit in the boot of this new 5th generation car. Now, the last 2 generations of RAV4 have offered an electric only option over in the USA. However, that has now changed and everything gets a plug-in hybrid version. This is a good way for Toyota to lower its CO2 levels across its entire range, get better economy, better benefit in kind tax for company drivers, and also it's a better way of stretching the world's limited supply of lithium into more vehicles. And it's not just the size that's changed. The cute little jelly mold thing that used to be the RAV4 is now very big, very angular, lots and lots of intersecting angles going literally all over the place in every angle. Wherever you look at a shape on it and think you found where it's going, it goes somewhere different. Check out the front of this thing, for example. We've got this big bluff front end with the floating diamond pattern of the grille, which is a bit like a 1950s or 60s American car in that little pattern there, but that would have been in chrome, obviously. The huge Toyota badge is a new thing, which seems to be growing ever bigger in every generation. Then we have this interesting kind of angry, frowny face. The old little RAV4 used to be such a happy bunny. Now it looks quite cross. And adding extra, unexpected levels of detail, we have this little moustache that runs above the grille line and below the bonnet line, giving an extra little step up just there. And right down the bottom we have this satin chrome and black extra strip, which finishes off below this black bumper area. It seems black bumpers have been gone since the 1970s. Suddenly they're making a comeback on the RAV4. It's very modern and very retro at the same time. Now, all this chunky bodywork actually hides 3 different motors. There's a petrol one, a front electric and a rear electric. The petrol engine is a 4-cylinder 2.5 litre, which makes 182 bhp, and that powers through a CVT gearbox into the general mix of power. Mostly that's used for generating electricity for the other 2 motors. The front motor is 134 kilowatts, or about 176 horsepower, and the rear motor is just 40 kilowatts, or about 53 horsepower. They all don't chime in at exactly the same time and have peak power at the same time as well, so ultimately the peak power output is 302 bhp. It's absolute peak. That does mean this car is still pretty rapid, considering how big and actually how heavy this thing is with the 3 motors and all the batteries. It'll still do 0 to 60 in 6 seconds, which is stunning, actually. Now, around the back of the car there's lots more of this very angular, sharp, sticky outy, lumpy design. There's also the features such as the reversing camera and a power tailgate, which opens with the majesty and sound of something very dramatic, from like a monster movie happening and something's about to be released from the crypt or the castle. But once we're inside the boot, it is absolutely cavernous. All your washing machine and kidnapping dreams have come true in the back of this car. And the loading lip is completely flat into the boot. It's a long way off the ground, and fans of SUVs will say this is very good and very easy for lifting things straight in. Fans of estate cars will say, well, you've got to lift up really high to get it over this lip, even though it's flat beyond that point. You pays your money, you takes your choice. Here inside the boot, it's fairly practical. As well as being big and flat, these seats fold down in a 60-40 manner, which will be even longer and flatterer into the front of the car for more washing machine movable space. You've got lash down points all around the place. You've got a 12-volt cigarette lighter style socket in the side, and you've even got a 220-volt 150-watt plug here in the boot as well. Lift up the floor, and instead of finding a spare wheel, there is enough space to put a spare wheel in. If you want to go and buy yourself a second-hand one, find one on the internet, because these pumps and goo things are basically stupid and useless. But you have got space for your charging paraphernalia, which you will be obviously needing because it is a plug-in hybrid. Although the engine will charge it as well. And now we close the doors to Helm's Deep. Oh, that's got sparkle in the black paint there. That's quite fancy. Right, let's look around inside the car, and we shall start with the seats. Would you look at these? Lovely bit of red highlighting interest going on. I think it's a faux leather exterior section, and I'm really not sure what material this is. It's like a faux leather with fabric embossing, a tiny red checker pattern going across in these stripes, and red contrast stitching. The whole thing looks very nice indeed, and it's actually extremely comfortable as well. It wraps around, gives your shoulders, your sides, lots of nice bolster support, very comfortable on the base as well, and very adjustable down here too. Then the doors, let's, before we climb in, look at the doors. Lots of soft touch leather textured material, which is I think a kind of again a faux leather, which is nicely padded, so all your elbow and touch points feel very nice, and even softly padded up here on top of the door, again with the red contrast stitching, and that goes all the way down into this very, again, angular, like the outside of the car. Lots of angles happening with some satin chrome effect metal finishes here, and a big door handle, easy to grab hold of. And of course we've still got those Japanese style rocking door lock switches, which we've had since I think the early 80s, as well as the rocking, well, I suppose it's an indicator as well as a switch. You've got the door button as well, so you have the choice whether you want to move your hand that way or that way. You can lock the car and open it again in many positions. Of course, we've also got 4 electric windows and electric mirrors, which do fold in as well, automatically or manually. Down the bottom of the door, huge storage bins with bottle storage, so you can keep your drinks upright in there. I am filming right next to Gatwick Airport. That has been something of an issue today. Now, as you step in, you are immediately aware of 2 things. First of all, you're in a RAV4, and secondly, it's a plug-in hybrid. That is written in about 5 different places around the car, so you cannot forget that. But climb into those very comfortable seats. That's good. And have a look around. Shut the planes out. Now, looking around, we have got an enormous tea shelf. This is a rubbery feeling material, so if you want to put your tea, coffee, snack materials up here on the dashboard, that will not be an issue. There'll be no problems with spillage and stainage. Now, moving down, we've got more soft touch, heavily textured contrast stitching, all the same deal with the doors, and a bit more of the same satiny, metal-y looking stuff over to the air vents in the side and in the centre. And echoing the theme on the front of the car, where we have the extra little step below the bonnet above the grille, we've got this extra little step down here as well below the dash top and this front area here. And that steps down into a handy little storage bin, which is ideal for pens, notepads, phones, snacks, you name it, anything can live in there. Grab a little perspex, you can keep a hamster in there even if you really wanted to, and that's all above an okay sized glove box. Moving back into the centre, we have got our big screen. Explode into life. Welcome to Toyota. This of course is a touch screen, but thankfully it does have lots of physical buttons around the edges and volume and scrolling things, so you can choose what you're doing with actual physical buttons as well as touching on the screen. Touching the screen is absolutely fine when you're sitting in a car park, but when you're driving it's so much easier to actually know where you're going by pushing a physical button, which is far more desirable. That is sitting above a couple of nice big air vents. Everything is very practical in a nice, easy to use way. Got another big air vent over on the side, another small cubby down here, which you can actually probably fit a phone into quite happily. And that's above a panel of switches, which includes a button for opening and closing the boot. Very handy. Now, in front of the driver, we have got a digital dashboard with mechanical needles. An interesting combination. Everything vanishes away when power is turned off and then appears as if by magic when it's on. And I do like this rather nice sweeping 180 degree sweep of the speedometer in the center of it. And of course our power charge, what have you, needle on the left, and our indication of what's left in the battery and the fuel tank on the right, because this has got a fuel tank and batteries, so let's not forget we've got multiple power sources. Moving back, we have got leather steering wheel. It's kind of a hard touch thing, feels quite nice and grippy though. Nice design, put like Roland Rat's chin down there, giving a bit of a grin to us. The horn in the centre. Ooh, that's a bit of an off-key horn. I wasn't expecting that at all. Many buttons, of course, and those buttons carry on over here in the centre, where we have got actual physical buttons for our heating and ventilation, dual zone climate. And something I'm really enjoying are these big rubber knurled knobs for your temperature and your volume and everything. If you're a fan of cameras from the mid to late 80s, you will recognise these as straight from the lens barrel of an early Minolta Dynax camera. So we've got very early autofocus on our dashboard controls. So It's a bit of an innovation, this car. Those are above some quite chunky looking buttons for our traction control off and for our heated seats. And that is above the biggest of phone inductive charging pad areas. So no matter how big your phone, your iPhone 13 Max or whatever you're using, that will fit in there. And if you don't want to inductively charge, you have got a USB and you've got a regular 12-volt style cigarette lighter socket. So lots of power delivery options for you in here. Automatic gearbox, but actually it's CVT rather than automatic, so just simple park, reverse, neutral drive, standard automatic stuff, and a couple of mode situation buttons here as well, which we'll talk about when we're on the road. Behind that we've got a couple of cup holders, and the cup holders and all storage areas have got this strange little modular triangle motif, which is very much like the logo of a 1980s evil science fiction company. So I'm a bit worried that maybe Toyota have become a 1980s evil science fiction company. Will they try and take over the world? Who knows? With this kind of storage, maybe they could, because we have yet more supervillain logo storage in here, which clips out if you don't need it. Otherwise you've got a vast area for putting your sandwiches down there, and yet more USBs, two more 2.1 amp USBs, so you can charge your phone, in fact many phones and other devices, whilst you're on the road. Now, climbing into the back, the doors are very big, square and practical. This is if you're going to say an SUV is a good thing for practicality, then this is the kind of thing you want to be doing. Big door openings so you can climb in, lovely, step straight in. And this is actually quite a well thought out area. It's loads and loads of legroom. This is limousine levels of space for both my feet and for my knees. And the headroom is just absolutely vast. It goes on forever in here. The back seats are quite heavily reclined as it goes, far more than I was expecting. You'd almost fall asleep just sitting here. It's very comfortable, but maybe a little too reclined if I'm honest, for just sitting up and taking part in conversations with people in the front. But it does mean I've got lots of room around me. We have, in terms of amenities, we've got yet more USBs, another 2 USBs, air vents for the back, heated seats for the 2 outer passengers, lucky them. And in the middle we've got an armrest with a couple of cup holders. So we are properly sorted for all of our amenities, as long as no one wants to sit in the middle. And of course we have more of this rather nice red stripy material in the middle. And looking forward, look at the back of these seats. It is again just all science fiction. I've decided that whoever designed this car was very heavily into watching things like Logan's Run and Soylent Green the weekend they were designing this thing. Every time you start the RAV4 up, it automatically starts in EV mode, pure electric, and it will drive 46 miles in that mode. Of course, it's a CVT, so it's just push and go, 2-pedal driving. There are actually 4 modes in total. There's EV, obviously, which is pure electric, EV HV, which is one that shuffles between as needed. There's HV, which runs as a hybrid, where it runs the engine just to generate electricity. When you're running in pure electric, it has a top speed of 86 miles an hour, which, let's be honest, is beyond the legal limit in most countries anyway, so that's kind of unimportant. When you're running in pure hybrid or petrol mode, it'll go up to 112 though, so you really can break the law a lot in this thing. Now this is a big car, it's a full-size SUV, whereas when it started off it was very much a compact SUV with strong overtones of off-road ability, and you can't get away from the fact that the car is very big, and of course with all those extra batteries and things, it is heavy. But from the driver's seat you don't really notice all that additional size. It does very much wrap itself around you and you feel quite comfortable knowing where the corners are, although having said that, I honestly can't tell you quite where that front near side corner is. I know it's over there somewhere. I haven't heard any clonking noises, so I'm guessing I haven't hit anything. It does of course have a reversing camera, as I mentioned at the back, so shifting this big beast backwards isn't too much of a problem. Now because this car is a hybrid, it's not just about the battery range, it's also about the fuel economy. And 2.5 litres sounds like a big engine, but Toyota claim this has got a maximum MPG of around 282 miles per gallon, when presumably it's just running as nothing but a petrol generator to put power into the battery. Real world, what people tend to find is it's around 55 to 60 to the gallon, which, although a lot less than 282, is still mightily impressive for wow, that is cool, that's mightily impressive for Something as big and heavy as that really should not be claiming those kind of figures. Now, for the most part, you are running on electricity. I've been driving this thing for a little while now, and I don't think I've even heard the motor kick in yet. So either it's almost always electric, or the motor is extremely silent. And there is, of course, endless torque, and it's four-wheel drive because you've got the two motors, one in the front, one in the back. So you do have a great distribution of power, making it just launch like something, again, half its size. And the ride generally is very soft. It's got enough control that you're not feeling seasick at any time. But you can feel it leaning a bit through the corners. Again, anything this big and this heavy, physics say it shouldn't be hustled down a road, but it is controllable enough that you can get some speed on around the corners. With all the extra little windows like these tiny quarter lights here on the side of the door, visibility is extremely good. The shoulder line of the car is not particularly high either, so we can see out quite easily, and the windscreen is huge as well, so we've got a nice view in every direction. Looking backwards, that rear window is a bit on the small side, but we have got the reverse camera, so going backwards isn't too hard. Now, we do have this mode dial here in the centre. Push for normal driving, rotate left for the green glow of eco, and rotate right for the red glow of sport. When the car picks up its heels and does become quite a bit more reactive and responsive, weighting up the steering a bit. So as well as getting bigger, this car has got more loaded with toys and technology, and that does also mean it's got more expensive. In standard form it's £47,000, in dynamic premium £52,000. So it's not a cheap option, but anything with that hybrid technology isn't really going to be on the budget side of the table. Well, thank you for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed this ride out in this huge RAV4, which is just such a world away from the car I'm familiar with. If you've enjoyed it, please do hit like and subscribe, and join me again next time driving something completely different.